Very deep existential question.
I was going to say, I think if you're a wife and you're a wife guy, you're just a narcissist.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're just a self-promoter at that point.
That's a good point.
You need to launder it. That's what wife guys serve a function because they launder the narcissism.
You know what? No one's broken it down for me like that, but that is exactly what wife guyism is all about.
Yeah, not surprisingly, I spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Well, welcome. Speaking of naked self-promotion, welcome to the greatest fake television show on the internet. Alabaster, where are we beginning today's episode?
We are going to begin with the ongoing drama that is leaving Cleveland. Where would you like to see Odell play next?
Oh, what an angle.
Before we get into the actual answer here, which is the Giants, I would like to just point out that I've been scrolling through the internet in the last half hour, and 75% of it is just photoshopped Odell Beckham into different jerseys. And I just like the idea of a very confused Bob Ryan being like, this is what we are now. This is what the business is. I have to learn Photoshop. This is how I have to compete with all of the people in my field.
Look, there's a very, I don't want to say poison, but divisive discourse right now on who deserves more blame for Odell's lack of success in Cleveland. Baker or Odell. Odell's dad contributed to that discourse. Odell, there's questions that pertain to this question about where would you like to see as to Odell's abilities. But I think what cannot be denied is he looks good in every single Photoshop. There's
remarkable.
No Photoshop that looks bad. Kevin, before I want to hear your thoughts, but I feel like we should actually lay out kind of what the situation is, or I guess not just where we'd like to see, but what's possible, because there's still some stuff up in the air. We know that the Browns and Odell did negotiate his exit. We don't know if they reduced his salary to a point where it would be attractive to a team on the waiver wire to claim him. I'm going to read the top teams right now because this, again, is relevant. It goes Detroit, probably the funniest option, Miami, Houston, Jacksonville, the Jets, Washington, the Giants, the Eagles, the Seahawks. I feel like a good spot to cut it off there, the Seahawks, for no particular reason. So I think right now the question that looms over all of this is, will Odell clear waivers? And then if he does, what will the market for him be? So let us know what you think.
Sure. So if they negotiate the salary down to a point where a Houston has no problem taking a flyer on him, then yeah, he'll get picked up. As you said, there are 12 teams that have the money to do it. From my perspective, what's the old line, the two greatest tragedies in life are wanting something and getting it. Odell Beckham better be careful what he wishes for, because there are some suggestions here that if he gets to a team with a competent quarterback, that he might show that maybe he's not the guy that he was. It was interesting. I was looking at some of his advanced stats over the past couple of years, and it's not good. You look at 2019. When he caught a pass between 10 and 19 yards, he averaged 7 yards after the catch. So he would catch a ball about 13 yards down the field, average 7 yards after that. It's about 20, 21 yards every time he touched the ball in that area of the field. That plummeted the last 2 years. Same average depth of target over the 13 games, but he's just not taking the ball and doing things with it. Everybody failed. Everybody failed in the situation. Baker Mayfield has failed. He is not a quarterback suited to put Odell Beckham in successful situations. Odell Beckham has failed to make plays when he's had the opportunities to do it. He's been open. The only person who hasn't failed is Odell Beckham Sr., who produced the best propaganda I've seen in the NFL over the past couple of years. But no,
So
I mean,
good.
this is just a situation where there are no winners. Dave Gettleman did not win that trade with the Giants. The guys they picked did not win. There's no one coming out of here looking like a winner.
So point of clarification, Mina, though. So the financial dynamic of this is fascinating and kind of hilarious, right? Because what's happening is if the Browns decide to eat or convert some of this salary into signing bonus, basically what happens is they make it more palatable for one of these teams claiming him to just pick him up off of waivers, which means that Odell Beckham Jr. cannot choose his own destiny, so to speak. So Odell Beckham Jr. clearly is rooting for the Browns to not do that, so he can basically call his shot. And meanwhile, the question remains well, how much spite do the Browns really have towards this man, right? Because that kind of shapes this.
Yeah. Well, there's a bet here by the Browns. I mean, this is a very fascinating game of chicken with finances because, look, the Browns, I would say, have two motivations. One, don't let Odell Beckham Jr. go to the Ravens. I mean, I guess any AFC competitor, but especially the
Right.
Ravens, who need a wide receiver and are their primary competition outside of Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Okay, so I just named every AFC North team. Whatever. They don't want him to go to the Ravens. The other thing, though, is the Browns would like to get some money back. Yeah. So, like, right now there's $9 million. If they can negotiate it down to a point where, like, maybe they get $5 million back that they can use to, I don't know, extend Wyatt Teller or something. However, Kevin, if they don't negotiate that much out, and he does, let's say they take it down to, I don't know, $8 million, and he clears waivers, then the Browns are betting on the fact that a team will want him and will pay him, because if a team was to pay him like $6 or $7 million, I don't know, the Browns get some of that money back too. So there's all kinds of competing interests for Cleveland here, but I would say money is the most important one.
I think getting him out of the building is the most important one. You know, it's interesting. I talked to Andrew Barry in August, and I think he's one of the smartest people in football. I also think Kevin Stefanski's one of the smartest coaches in football. But what Andrew Barry, I said, what are you building here that everybody else hasn't? And I joked because he was sitting in a chair that literally like 6 other Browns GMs had sat in on the edge of the practice field, like John Dorsey, Ray Farmer, all these guys.
Kevin, was this the chair near the projector that accidentally projected porn, or was that not the same room that the Browns
This was outdoors. This was that they couldn't bring me into the porn projector room because of COVID. But I said, what are you building here? And he said, we're building a culture of calm. And you remember, there hasn't been any calm in Cleveland for years. John Dorsey made this trade. I was at the first training camp practice that Odell Beckham was there, and it was an absolute circus because they were hyped up when they shouldn't have been. The offensive line on that team was bad. They were a hyped team. That's what they were. They did not have the pieces. They just had the hype. And I think that this move is the kind of move you make if you're actually building a culture of calm in Cleveland where there's never any calm. So I don't even care about the financial ramifications. Baker's injury makes so the Browns can't win the Super Bowl this year, and they can't really compete for a Super Bowl. This is about culture, quite frankly. And I think that's what's interesting to me. They still have talent on that team. They still have receivers on that team. I'm okay with this move because it's clear to me that they think that Odell not being on the team is more valuable than him being on the team.
I agree with everything you just said. Let's get back to the question, which is where would you like to see him play next? Alabaster, I think you uncovered some pretty key, I would want to say evidence, but perhaps a suggestion as to what the ideal scenario for Odell Beckham Jr. might be. Oh, okay. Look, wow, what a great photo. What a casual, like just a couple of friends hanging
just
out.
Shocked by who has their shirt on in that photo, honestly. It's just surprising that we have it that way. Yeah.
That smile. People have said to me, so I look, I'm obviously a Seahawks fan. I don't think they'll do it, although they have a history of kind of making wild signings and trades. So they're kind of a hard team. They are 9th in the waiver order, and they also have a decent amount of cap space relative to all the contenders. Like people are throwing out, the Raiders and the Chiefs and the Saints. Those teams don't have money. The Packers, the Seahawks actually have money. Here's the thing. It's been pointed out that Seattle's obviously the strength of their team is wide receiver. You guys know this. Defense is the problem. I understand that, but defense isn't getting fixed mid-season. Right. So my feeling is go all in, build the turbocharged offense and just let it fly.
So I have just a fundamental question just about like why it hasn't worked in Cleveland and why we should be optimistic about him showing up in Seattle or anywhere else. So like when you talk about like, I think of how experts, I've been told, describe taking psychedelics, right? You go into an experience like this, and what's very important are 2 things: set and setting. Your mindset, what you bring to it, and also the setting, like what's around you. Do you have a nice Sherpa who's there to guide you through it to make it a gentle experience? With Odell Beckham Jr., is this a mindset thing? Is it a setting thing? Like, why? I'm just mystified beyond, like, of course, him having injury. Like, why hasn't this been nearly as pleasurable a trip as it should have been?
It's a couple things. Number one is that there's been injuries, and he's not the player that he was in 2019, and certainly not with the Giants. That's the number one thing. That's just aging. That's just the toll of football. And then Baker, it has not been the quarterback we thought he was. And that has coincided pretty much exactly. There's a graph there that follows exactly along those same lines, which is Odell getting worse and Baker's expectations being lowered. And so I think that this is, again, a failure for everybody. I thought Kevin Stefanski would be a little better at getting the ball in Odell's hands, but if Baker's hurt and can't throw a slant, Baker's hurt and can't throw a slant. I mean, there's just this is just not the place for him, and that's totally fine.
So our mutual friend, Kevin's colleague at The Ringer, Stephen Ruiz, did a wrote a story about Odell and Baker and like what went wrong. And he posited a really interesting, I thought, theory, which is kind of has to do with Baker's strengths or his limitations as a passer. Odell is, devastating deep outside the numbers, and Baker has not really been able to connect with him there. You know who's good at throwing deep outside the numbers? Bring back the photo, Alabaster.
Oh,
Bring
no.
back the photo.
Oh no!
Really?
What?
Mina's
I'm
gonna do a
just
photo
saying.
here. Yeah.
Listen, everyone's putting out propaganda right now around this. I gotta plant my propaganda flag.
Hey, Mina, I have
there
some sources. I just want to say that Russell Wilson's running around his backyard pretending to throw to Odell Beckham right now. He's been taking mental reps, and he's now thinking about what it would be like to pretend on a field to throw to Odell Beckham.
Yeah,
And
Russell
Odell
Wilson
Beckham's-
is currently, he's pantomiming pressing like on all of Odell Beckham Sr.'s Instagram posts also.
That's
I was
right.
gonna say, Odell Beckham Sr. is already working on a video of the Seahawks running on 1st and 2nd down while Odell is lined out wide, just cutting it in advance of the pickup.
So, Mina, we didn't get to the real point, which is who is the best Photoshop jersey athlete of all time?
Yes, finally. Let's get to the real story here.
Gosh. I mean, Odell's up there. I saw some pretty sweet Julio photoshops before this offseason.
What does a pretty sweet Julio Photoshop entail? What about sweetness? Yeah, what's that metric?
It's quality. It's matching the facial expression to the body pose. I don't know a lot about how the photoshops are made, but
you're no Sunman Kimes. Let's be honest, Kevin. I mean,
that's correct.
We should have had the real expert on.
We should have. I would say Julio and Odell in America are some of the top athletes. I would say overall, nothing can compete with European soccer. I mean, you put Paul Pogba in a Bayern Munich jersey, it's over. That's 10K easy. I was wondering, like, if you just put, I think the more random, the better. Like, if right now I just tweeted just for no reason, just Justin Fields in a Patriots jersey, like I would do 3K just by people being like, what? Or just like either putting the eyeball or just the word imagine. And people have been like, what? Okay, I'll just retweet this, whatever. It's Justin Fields in a Patriots jersey. Just that's how you play the game.
I feel like there are two ways to play the game. That is absolutely a brilliant one. The other one is to just do kind of like the lowest production value but most effective version of the strategy, which is to just take.
I do, yeah.
No, it's to take the Kevin Durant Players Tribune thing and just like MS Paint any logo onto it, right? Just like a box over his chest, and you'll get 10,000 likes, I'm guessing.
The Patriots honestly do make a lot of sense, Kevin. Like again, the finances pending, waiver wire pending. That is a team that not only could use Odell's talents, I would say especially in the short to intermediate area, and his ability to get yards after the catch, again, different from earlier in his career, but also they've got a coach who loves doing stuff like this. Like this, who has a history of making moves like this.
What are you telling us for? Photoshop it. You're like, this is 20K, easy.
20K. All right, should we move on to the next topic, Alabaster?
Absolutely. I will say, can you imagine Zion Williamson, Knicks jersey that says Bing Bong?
Oh,
that might be the winner.
It's electric.
You'd have to Photoshop him in all sorts of ways beyond the jersey to make that one really feel good, which I now feel bad about making a joke about. So let's move on.
It's a good joke. All right, next topic.
Oh God.
Did White Mike do enough last night to convince you that his debut wasn't a fluke?
So I will just say this at the top here, as someone who basically, I mean, more than anyone else on this planet, built a career off of the back of Jeremy Lin and 2.5 weeks. I am already in on White Mike. Like, I didn't need to see much. The idea, though, that he gets hurt just as he's like catching fire again. No, I'm in on this, man. I'm in on, as Mike D'Antoni once said about Jeremy Lin, I'm in on riding this dude like he's frigging Secretariat. Yes.
Wow.
Kevin.
Okay, so
take this one.
It's the 400 yards thing is a fluke. His average depth of target was around 4 yards, which is, unless he's Drew Brees, is just not repeatable. And I don't think he's Drew Brees, by the way, for the record. What's not a fluke is that anybody can run this Jets offense better than Zach Wilson. That's a problem. They were averaging...
The Josh Johnson thing does complicate.
They were averaging 3 points and 85 yards per first half going into last Sunday, okay? And now Mike White has run the offense better. Josh Johnson has run the offense. Joe Flacco, who wasn't even active, if you put him in last night, he probably would have done it. Pablo, if we put you in, you'd probably do a better job. Although, Pablo, if you were surrounded by the New York Jets, would that be the least famous group of people you've been with at a sporting event with the last couple of weeks? Can you handle that lack of star power?
Kevin, like Joe Flacco, I am also elite. So yeah, it'd be hard for me. Yeah.
You could get some of your famous buddies in there, but no, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. Wilson was holding the ball 3.1 seconds per pass, which is tied with Lamar Jackson for the NFL's longest. Guess what Lamar Jackson's doing when he's got the ball? He's doing amazing things. Zach Wilson is not, to put it bluntly, is not doing amazing things back there with his 3.1 seconds. So Zach Wilson needs to look in the mirror. The Jets need to look at the mirror in the mirror and figure out why Zach Wilson's not optimizing this offense. Figure out why he has a worse yards per attempt than anybody who's played for the Jets this year. Figure out why. Now I'm looking at the numbers here. Wilson has 4 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. The backups have 8 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. They are outplaying him in every single facet of the sport. The Jets need to look in the mirror. That part's not a fluke.
Zach Wilson looking in the mirror reminds me of the pre-draft photo of him literally looking in a mirror wearing a suit. I don't know if you remember this, looking like a high school junior going to prom. The real winner here is Mike LaFleur, right? Because he has to feel a little bit justified.
He was in the hot seat 2 weeks ago.
People were yelling at him, and now he's got backup quarterbacks producing as well. The run game looks better in the offense without Zach Wilson. All of it, and the Colts are no joke on defense. It wasn't like Josh Johnson, who came in after Mike White, was playing scrubs. Like for a lot of that game, they were playing the Colts starters, and they are good defensive starters. And I think that it's undeniable that the offense did look better. I feel like, look, you can't move on from Zach Wilson, obviously.
Well, this is my question. Mina, let's deal with this part of it, though, because what Kevin is implying here is that Zach Wilson actually he represents a problem that they need to actually seriously think about fixing. How do you fix that problem? Or how fixable is that problem would be the question, right? And I'm open to ideas because I wasn't the guy who was saying, man, Zach Wilson is bad, but Josh Johnson kind of did tip the scales in terms of I think that's going to be a thing that they have to figure out.
Well, I think part of the problem is that Wilson specialized in playing spectacular football at BYU. And the whole thing now, and this is the post-Mahomes world, he can throw off platform. He can go out of the pocket and make plays. He can do the arm motions and the arm, the slotting the arm and all of these things that you need in the modern NFL. What about just dropping back and completing a pass? What happened to that? We skipped that part. He skipped from 101 to 501.
Slow down, Bill Polian.
In quarterbacks.
No, this is the Steph Curry effect.
Yeah,
We literally worried about this with Mahomes. Like the way that Steph Curry is potentially influencing a generation
deluding young people.
Of kids to think that they can take threes. Like Mahomes, this is the Mahomes effect we're seeing this next generation.
But Mahomes can do everything on the road to the amazing play, right? Like he can do the fine play, the intermediately good play, the advanced good play, the amazing play. Zach Wilson, apparently, all he's good at the NFL level is doing the off-platform stuff. And Robert Saleh said this over and over again. Michael Fleur said it over and over again. He needs to learn how to play boring football. It's what people keep using. Trent Dilfer used the golf analogy a couple weeks ago, where a bogey's okay. Just get it out into the fairway. Don't try to hit a hole in one every single time. Don't try to eagle it from the trees. Just get it out, make the play, and that's what I think. This is fixable, but it starts with Zach Wilson understanding how to play within that offense.
Mina, though, I feel like when a guy shows up wearing a bandana as a rookie, that's not a guy who wants to do boring stuff.
Baker was a bandana guy, right? What other bandana guys have there been in the NFL?
Well, Jim McMahon, which is also a BYU guy.
There you go.
Was a bandana.
Any recent success stories with the bandana?
No, it's basically those guys and then a bunch of suburban dojos full of dudes who are trying to do roundhouse kicks.
And Bruce Springsteen.
It's funny that you mentioned dojos.
Bruce Springsteen, born in the USA era. Bruce Springsteen.
Because Zach Wilson literally looks like somebody who would have hung out with the Cobra Kai guys in the original Karate Kid. Like he is not on, the right
big
side
villain energy.
Of the Karate Kid universe. Maybe he should just abandon the bandana when he comes back, like a new, like a new energy, a new look. They are bringing in his quarterback coach, John Beck. Who coaches a lot of successful quarterbacks and is going to actually be more a part of the Jets like program, I believe, which on one hand could go well because, as we've discussed, Zach Wilson clearly needs to adjust some of his tendencies. On the other hand, it has real JD McCoy's daddy from Friday Night Lights. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Can I just point out, though, that, like, if I've learned one lesson from corporate America, it's that you don't want to be the employee that makes your boss look stupid. I feel like the well may be poisoned. I mean, it's if you're Mike LaFleur, right? Like, I understand. Yeah. It's such a massive conflict of reputation and interest at this point, where I just see this becoming incredibly, incredibly messy.
Hey, the Jets are Josh Johnson's 19th team. Is he the worst Photoshop athlete of all time?
That list is incredible.
They're not even Photoshops. It's just actual photos of Josh Johnson.
It's like every league that's existed, every spring league, the XFL, the AAF,
Sacramento Mountain Lions,
CFL. Yeah, like so many NFL teams. And I had that moment where I was like, ha, Josh Johnson, you're so old. And then also realized he's younger than me. So it's not great.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look good.
Alabaster.
I thought he played well.
I thought he did too. I thought he did too. And he may have helped realize what the Jets have in Zach Wilson. So, I mean, 57% of your completions, not good. They've got to fix this. John Beck is here to fix this.
It's like every possible control test for that. To go back to, by the way, the first topic, which is Baker Odell, that might be resolved in the coming weeks as well. You know, this is the classic on-off thing with the NFL.
By the way, can we just have a quick tip of the cap to the quietly most hilarious figure in all of this, who is Joe Flacco, right? He gets traded to be the guy. This was supposed to be his. I'm actually, or was it the 6th rounder, right, for Joe Flacco? The idea that he is now supposed to come in and like have his little parade of I'm actually better than you thought I am, and he's not even activated. Which is
bizarre trade.
Legend at the bank. Legend at the bank.
Yes. Legend in the barbershop when they cut to him on the sidelines again.
Always crisp.
I've been informed reliably, by the way, that Joe Flacco is one of the best tippers in the history of football.
Whoa.
Makes sense.
I want that power ranking.
That's why he gets such great haircuts. Now it all comes together. Let's get the next topic.
All right. Our next topic. What's fair to expect from Jordan Love this weekend?
Wait, hold on.
It's a gift. The story is a gift that just keeps on giving. I mean, I guess the question as Lenny just
hi, Lenny.
Going to town.
Keep talking.
The question I have, Mina and Lenny and Kevin, is like, this is kind of the nightmare for Aaron Rodgers. Right? Like the idea that not only, I mean, the soap opera can obviously be rehashed in detail to great humor here, but just the simple fact that we're at the phase where we probably wouldn't have seen Jordan Love get an opportunity like this, an opportunity that Aaron Rodgers himself once benefited from when Brett Favre got hurt back in his young career. Yep. The idea that we're actually going to get a chance to evaluate the guy that was supposed to replace Aaron Rodgers, and now Aaron Rodgers is going to have to watch that and go through a whole news cycle about, actually, can they just let this guy go because the tides of public perception are also forcing Aaron Rodgers seemingly further and further away? I mean, not only do I expect an amazing day of Monday sports talk television, but I expect this to be a real story. Yes, I'm curious what the football experts think about this, but I would be terrified if I'm Aaron Rodgers.
Well, something that's confused me in terms of the football side of it is I've seen the take, straw man, that, poor Jordan Love having to start on the national stage against Patrick Mahomes. He's not playing Patrick Mahomes. He's playing the Chiefs defense. Yeah, yes. This is a great stage for Jordan Love.
It's a great one. It was interesting to me because I was watching all of the preseason tape before he played against the Texans this year, and I watched every single throw he had. And I thought that he had good pocket presence. I thought he made quick decisions, okay? I also think none of that matters. None of it matters. It doesn't matter. I could do 20 more minutes of film analysis. None of it matters. Playing the Chiefs is an IQ test. Where is Daniel Sorensen? Where is Ben Neiman? Throw at them. Throw at them. There's nothing else you need to do, okay? I don't want to hear a game plan. I don't want to hear, we were trying to do quick game stuff. I don't want to hear anything on Sunday night other than LaFleur saying we found Daniel Sorensen and we went after him. Now, Love is a prospect in the most obvious sense. He had 20 touchdowns and 17 interceptions last year at Utah State. By the way, Roto Underworld said that his comp, Mina, you saw this yesterday, his most similar player is Dan Orlovsky.
That makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Or maybe it does. Maybe we're going to find out it does. I'm not sure. But I think that there
so many
are
jokes come to mind.
I think that with LaFleur, I think with Love, Rodgers spent 4 months saying he wasn't going to play this year. So they've got an offense. It may have dust on it, but they've got an offense that they thought about in June and July when we had no idea if Rodgers was showing up, and now we get to see it. This is not like, oh, wow, we haven't even thought about this. There was a time when they were planning for Jordan Love to be the starter. Now we get to see what that looks like. That's Nathaniel Hackett. That's LaFleur. That's Jordan Love. They've thought about this. Let's see it.
I think Matt LaFleur should be the favorite for Coach of the Year, or depending on what happens with
Which
the
one?
Saints and
Which
Sean
LaFleur?
Payton can... Oh, that's a great point. Both?
Just an all LaFleur, an all LaFleur power rankings, yeah.
And I think he's an extremely good game planner. I think he's extremely good at designing offenses that not only take advantage of mismatches and the weaknesses on opposing defenses, which the Chiefs, it's most things, but building quarterback-friendly offenses. Yeah. And we saw last week when Aaron Rodgers played without any of his wide receivers, LaFleur built that entire offense out of quick outs and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So I have confidence in his ability to game plan for Jordan Love, not just because of what that's a great point about how they spent the whole summer. This isn't like coming out of nowhere, but because the Chiefs cannot stop the run, and the Packers not only have a very good run game already, which we saw on display, now they've got a quarterback under center. We'll see if they have him in the pistol, who can run the ball. I expect to see like a more option-oriented offense, as just build the whole thing out of the triple option and throws in the direction of Daniel Sorensen. And honestly, the Packers cover.
It is like the idea of the Packers going just like Navy, go full Georgia Tech on the Kansas City Chiefs. By the way, Mina, you mentioned that, of course, he's playing the Kansas City Chiefs defense, which is like the funniest possible defense to play if you're someone who likes to laugh at Aaron Rodgers. The other part of it, though, is that, of course, if he does beat the Kansas City Chiefs defense, we are still going to say that he beat Patrick Mahomes, which is going to make it all more infuriating.
Oh, the takes are going to fly so high.
Yes. Can we workshop this for a second? What is the question going to be on Monday? Can we embrace debatable? Is it going to be, what do you make of the fact that Jordan Love outplayed Patrick Mahomes this weekend?
I think it'll be more about the Chiefs. Yeah. I think it'll be more Chiefs panic than Jordan Love hype. Kevin, what do you think?
I don't know, guys. We've been doing Chiefs panic for a while. It doesn't really seem to be taken. Like all you guys, Kevin just went through the whole thing of how like Patrick Mahomes is still like the paragon of all the things that delude young people into thinking they can be Patrick Mahomes, even though he's having like the worst season we've seen him have. I feel like the Aaron Rodgers angle to me, like Stephen A on Monday, we've seen him turn. Mina, your mentor, has already turned on the bad man he likes to refer to as.
He turned on him. He turned hard.
You know, once you lose Stephen A, man, it's a dangerous game.
I completely agree. Well, I have a vivid memory of driving through on my camp tour a couple years ago, and I put on ESPN radio and Stephen A was on, and I swear to God, for 3 minutes straight, he was just screaming the words Aaron Rodgers over and over again. Okay, this is that's not an exaggeration. I wish I had clipped it. But
no, that feels factual.
I feel like this could be a big weekend for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, like Aaron Rodgers is someone who polls really high as someone who can give not only great tape as far as quarterbacks go, but he can give Game of Thrones takes and talk about Mayor of Easttown or whatever it is. And I kind of feel like right now he's polling at an all-time low. And if Jordan Love kind of gives the Packers a reason to have optimism in him, I think the entire conversation starts to turn.
But if Jordan Love sucks, I feel like Aaron Rodgers immediately wins back the fan base, because that's how football works. Nothing matters to fans, rather, except whether or not you are the guy who helps your team win games. So I feel like the true takes coming out of this are going to fly in Green Bay, not outside of. We're going to do the whole Mahomes versus Love thing, Chiefs panic thing, all of that. But Packers fans, I think, are ultimately the party here. They're the swing voters, frankly, coming out of this election. They will go in either direction after this game.
They're swing voters, but instead of an exit poll, all we got to do is count the number of Photoshops that Aaron Rodgers is going to be in. after Sunday. Yeah.
The next
Not
2
a good
weeks.
Photoshop athlete, by the way.
The next 2 weeks, and we know for certain this week, are one of the biggest games in recent history for Aaron Rodgers because the entire conversation hinges on it.
Right.
Because
Yes.
the best line I've ever heard about football is from a book called Bringing the Heat by Mark Bowden. It's about the Eagles in the 90s. And he said that the media just collects everything about an athlete or a coach. And then after they win or lose, they determine whether or not their eccentricities are good or bad, right? And that's, to me, the situation with Aaron Rodgers, where we're going to decide whether or not the last couple of weeks and the last couple of months and the last couple of years are good or bad, depending on what the Packers do these next 2 weeks. And when we get to see the kind of control group without him, is Jordan Love ready to take this offense to the next level? All of that stuff. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but he's also not going to be holding the franchise hostage and doing some of the things that I think the Packers brass thinks that Aaron Rodgers has done. He already said he wanted to leave next year and all that stuff. So you get, I don't know, if you can get 70% of Aaron Rodgers with 100% less distractions, do you want that? I don't know. We find out Sunday where that kind of stands.
Rodgers is potentially eligible to come back next Saturday.
Right.
Depending, it's a 10-day minimum period if you are unvaccinated, which we now know he is. Sunday, the Packers play the Seahawks, Sunday the 14th. The takes are going to be wild if he comes back and loses to Geno Smith throwing 3 touchdowns
to Odell
Beckham Jr.
To Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Can't wait.
Just the meme singularity. Everything just converges onto one single field. Alabaster, what do we got next?
Wonderful. Guys, by the way, Rodgers is on Pat McAfee in 6 minutes. So we might have breaking news at that point if he says something wild.
Boy, I can already tell you what he's going to say. This never should have gotten out. It's a privacy issue.
Obviously, yes, privacy, cancel culture. You cannot get these odds at Vegas anymore. These are off the board.
This is a personal thing. The mainstream media. Interesting. This was reported on NFL Network first, by the way, the Rodgers vaccination thing. So no comment. It's just, we'll see what he says.
If Aaron Rodgers just decides to, go to war with the NFL itself over this, I would enjoy that news cycle. Speaking of things I'd like to see on Monday. Okay, we're at the Craven part of the show where we all have to just undo retweets and retweet them.
That's right. The most thirsty part of the show. All right. And our final trending topic. More football. Do we have to start taking the Patriots seriously if they win their 3rd game in a row this weekend?
You guys can take this. I'm still goosing our viewership numbers.
I have bad service, so I can just riff on this. Okay, so Mac Jones is the highest-rated quarterback in the NFL, according to PFF, since Week 5. Okay, 70% of his completions this year. The Patriots know what this offense is supposed to look like now. It's passes between 8 and 10 yards. It's easy completions. It's layups, as we talked about. And it's Bill Belichick. And what I mean by that is that last year, one of Bill Belichick's former offensive linemen said that Bill Belichick viewed the 2020 season as, quote, a joke. And the reason is because the best advantage the Patriots have outside of Tom Brady is Bill Belichick and the game plans and the week-to-week stuff, taking what you do away from you, turning superstars into mediocre players by just either game plan or personnel or doubling up guys, whatever it is. And we saw that last week with Justin Herbert. And we're going to see that going forward. I mean, it is unfair. I wish there was a way, if the Panthers could be like a college team and pay their way out of this game, they would. Do you really want to see Sam Darnold against Bill Belichick?
No, I was going to say Sam Darnold already has PTSD.
Well, we might get PJ Walker, right, in this game. I think we probably will because Sam Darnold is injured, which doesn't change anything you just said, frankly. Right. But the Patriots defense, I thought they would be really good heading into the season. They had a bit of a slow start, but Kevin, I think they're kind of rounding into form right now, which is, of course, the famous Belichick thing. He doesn't really take the first month seriously. Matt Judon looks like one of the, if not the best signings of free agency. Christian Barmore, who they drafted, looks like a total monster on the inside. And even without Stephon Gilmore, the secondary is holding up reasonably well. That said, this is a legitimate test for Mac Jones against a Panthers defense that, while not the world beaters who they look like at the very beginning of the season, still has a very terrifying pass rush. As far as the question goes, because the Patriots are in the AFC. I don't know how you can rule out any decent AFC team as being
No,
contenders right now, especially a team that has been playing good football and is well coached.
No, I mean, I was just going to say, I did the very advanced metric analysis of thinking to myself, oh, wait, okay, 7 playoff teams from the AFC, and there are 6 teams with winning records. Like, we should be afraid of the Patriots, just based on that alone.
It was so obvious it was going to happen. They had so many opt-outs last year. They had a bad quarterback situation. I mean, it was so obvious that they were going to take the leap, not from good to great or anything, but from bad to okay to good, to the 7th best team in the AFC, which is all you need. And then you're playing January football. And by the way, Bill Belichick is the best situational January coach in the history of football. So yes, we should take them seriously. We always should have been taking them seriously. Mac Jones is not Tom Brady, but he doesn't have to be. There's a hell of a lot worse quarterbacks than Mac Jones in this league. I think this Patriots team's pretty good.
Yeah.
So can I ask the Mac Jones question then? Because of course the defense, the credibility, oozing out of its pores, right? We understand that about Belichick. But the Mac Jones thing, I'm curious, like, do they begin to use him differently at all? Or is this way they're using it?
Yeah.
So explain that, where we are with him.
Sure. Yeah, so I think as the season, look, Mac Jones, by the way, did not have a good game last week against the Chargers until the fourth quarter. The Patriots defense won that game. But what you've seen over the last few weeks is Bill Belichick, or really Josh McDaniels, placing more trust in Mac Jones to push the ball downfield. They've made some adjustments on offense in terms of making it a little bit more Alabama-like and spreading things out. And the offensive line is playing a lot better. It's quietly been an issue for New England the first month of the season. Seems like they've figured out who they want to start in front of Mac Jones. And yeah, like I said, the Patriots defense is rounding into shape. But I also think the Patriots offense is. Like, look, Kevin, who's the second best team in the AFC? Behind Buffalo.
I just wanted to make sure you were saying Buffalo is number 1. Baltimore?
Yeah.
Baltimore?
Right.
I mean, I thought at one point, like the Chargers, at one point,
it's crazy how immediately the Chargers are just off this entire conversation.
No, but by the way, if you're drafting teams you don't want to play, guess who's still pretty high in the AFC? The damn Kansas City Chiefs. I don't want to see Mahomes on January 10th. Do you?
There it is.
I'm just saying.
Any of these teams.
No,
we don't.
It's nothing. I mean, like the AFC right now is extremely, extremely winnable.
Yeah. So the answer, Alabaster, is yes. We already take the Patriots seriously.
Can I? Something interesting was said. I just want to get a question about this in before we go to the next one. You guys said that Bill Belichick is known to take like the first month of the season off. That's a real thing? Like, what is that?
Yeah, so in 2011, the collective bargaining agreement changed, and so there are no more two-a-days in camp. There is much less hitting. You have, I think is it 11 padded practices during the season? So once season starts, you can't even, or 14, something like that, you can't even hit every single week. And so teams the smart teams understand you're not going to be ready on September 9th. So they program it basically to peak later in the season. I mean, the Pete Carroll Seahawks were great at that. They would, all of a sudden they'd be 3-2 and everybody would say, wait, what's going on with the Seahawks? And by December, they would look like the NFC's best team. So the smart coaches understand how to do this. And, defenses in particular, because there's no hitting, because it's hard to install a lot of things, the good defenses that stay healthy always get better as the season progresses.
And I think especially New England, like always New England, but especially New England, given that they have a rookie quarterback and so many of their key players on both sides of the football this year are free agents. I will say, Kevin, the one thing I don't understand about New England is why they traded Stephon Gilmore for nothing. Because I would feel if I'm sure there were possibly disputes with Gilmore that we are not privy to.
There was a report. There was a report this week they didn't like the way he handled his injury. They didn't like the way the medical staff handled his injury.
He looks good, man.
But I also think, let's talk here for a second about like Belichick and how he views the locker room in relation to the Odell Beckham thing here. Because one of the things that Belichick is really aware of is you trade a guy before he becomes a locker room problem, right? And so if Gilmore was really feuding with the medical staff or feuding with the coaching staff, he's a free agent in a couple weeks anyway, just get rid of him. We've seen that time and time again. No one understands who has the capability to be angry in the locker room earlier than Bill Belichick. And that's why he trades a guy a year before his contract is due or whatever, because he just says, hey, this guy seems like he's kind of having a bad time. Why don't we see if we can get a second-round pick for him? The Gilmore thing's different because they basically got nothing for him because there was no proof that he was healthy this year.
Hold on, that gift. We've established that Bill Belichick has various superpowers in the course of this segment. The one that I did not necessarily fully appreciate was that he knows, like, kind of how a person with with an injury knows when, like, it's about to rain. He knows that there is, like, some locker room tension about to come. Is that because he is highly emotionally intelligent, or is that because he sort of knows what grumpy looks like because he's the grumpiest man in the world?
If somebody's grumpier than Belichick, then he knows at that point, oh, wow, this guy has to go. If someone has a more dour look on their face. Yes. No, I mean, I think there's a couple of things about it. First of all, I think that contracts, and Mina, you know this with Seattle, when guys are due for extensions, there is a lot more tension in the locker room than people outside think. Yeah. Everyone thinks like, oh, this guy got his money, he might be happy. No. There are people who are saying, wait, this guy got $2 million more than I did? Are you kidding me? And that's where a lot of it, huge. One of the things that in my reporting has come over the past couple of years is that Tom Brady taking less, even though that was always a little bit overrated in the context of how much he was paid. At some point, he was the highest paid player in the NFL as far as quarterbacks go. But one of the things they were able to do is say to any superstar who either wanted to come or who wanted an extension, hey, you're not making more than Tom Brady. There was an artificial cap over that. And that was in the name of locker room harmony, but it was also in keeping costs down. So they perfected all of that.
I don't think people understand how much that matters to players. Like when Seattle did the Jamal Adams deal, the first thing I checked was it's not more than Bobby Wagner, right? Like it matters a great deal towards preserving the equilibrium of a locker room. And I do want to say before we let Alabaster get in here, Belichick's not infallible when it comes to some of these decisions. Like there are guys who have left and sucked, and then there are guys like Chandler Jones who have left and thrived outside of New England. Stephon Gilmore clearly
Chandler
looks
Jones
great.
was having some problems in New England.
You mean showing up shirtless outside of a police station is a problem? That's the thing that we're calling problem now? Alabaster.
Spice, right? It was Spice?
Oh, yeah, K2. As it's called.
He was yelling at the cops to arrest him, which is not an amazing sign.
Playing really well now and doing well.
Yeah.
Producer, what do you got?
Super productive.
So
now.
I want to read you guys a couple quotes from Aaron Rodgers that I think you guys might find interesting.
I'm getting some text.
Oh, that's been happening.
Yeah, it's happening right now. First of all, I didn't lie during that press conference. Had there been a follow-up, I would have responded by saying I'm not some sort of anti-vax flat earther. At a different point, he also said, I realize I'm in the crosshairs of the woke mob right now. So before the final nail gets put in my cancel culture casket, I'd like to explain myself.
Oh, man. We got him.
Did he explain himself? I'd like to hear his explanation.
Cancel culture casket.
Cancel culture casket. That's a great fantasy football team name. I'm going to change mine to that.
The cancel culture casket.
Yes.
Love to be canceled, making $100 million being the quarterback of an NFL team. Yeah.
Love to be canceled on this enormous internet platform.
Both Mina and I have spent some time with old Aaron here, and I really like Aaron as a person. And I will say, I talked to him about 2 months ago, and he did 5 to 6 minutes on how The Office couldn't be made today because of cancel culture, which doesn't make a ton of sense because The Office is still the most popular show on the planet.
It's the most popular show on the planet.
Shout out to Brad Spielberger, who coined the phrase "throw Rogan," which I will never not think about. It's really good.
Wow.
It's really good.
To me, nicknames go in order. Number 2, throw Rogan. Number 1, for Chandler Parsons, for Gordon Hayward. Like still to me in that order. Yeah. That's a good one.
We getting more quotes, Alabaster?
Yeah,
What's he saying? Is he giving his, I'm sure, scientifically vetted explanation?
There's a bit more, but it's meandering and stuff that we probably shouldn't get into.
Do we have
it's time to play a game.
Wait, do we have the explanation for what the treatment was yet? Is McAfee?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. That's literally the only piece of news I need.
Yeah, were crystals involved? Would be my first follow-up question. Now that he's inviting it, yep. Reiki, perhaps, just energy treatment. All right, Alabaster. Let's. All
right, guys, it's time.
Do what you want us to do.
To play a game. And that game is Who Done It. We'll give you a quote. You tell us who done it. First quote.
Menacing.
I was the backup quarterback. They came up to me on the side and had my extra helmet with the little mic in it. I was ready. I was about to just put it on. I was like, it's my time to shine. Probably going to get a little bit more money. Wildcat, that's disrespectful. And your choices are A, DJ Moore, B, Alvin Kamara, C, Ezekiel Elliott, or D, Chris Boswell.
All right, we need a group consensus here. I want to say that Zeke is the type of guy who might be outspoken enough to say this, but Kevin's already shaking his head.
I don't think it's Zeke. Is it, Mina? I think it's A or B.
It's Alvin Kamara. I saw this quote,
okay.
And obviously the Saints were pretty pressed after Jameis went down. You know who it should be is Cedric Wilson.
Yes.
Who clearly,
yes.
I would say, is one of the 32 best throwers in the NFL right now. Do we feel comfortable saying that? That dude threw a deep ball with touch on the move. And honestly, when the numbers came out, all the weird jersey number changes the preseason, and I saw he was number 1, I made some jokes. I was like, wow, really? You're the number 4 at most receiver on this roster, and you're going with 1? He owned me so hard. He deserves number 1. He deserves to be a backup quarterback somewhere. He is the most versatile player in the NFL.
Alabaster, do we have a video to validate our hypothesis?
I was quarterback. They came up to me on the side, and I had my extra helmet with the little mics in it. I was ready. I was about to just put it on. You know what I'm saying? I was like, all right, okay, it's my time to shine. Probably get a little bit more money.
Was that straight Wildcat? Or
Nah, Wildcat. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful.
No, see, Mina was just talking about how, there are actually players in the NFL who'd be good at throwing. I'd like to see, I guess we did see this literally with the Broncos last year when they started a wide receiver because of COVID. But I would love, just a red zone for, when position players pitch or when running backs are forced to play quarterback.
What about, did you see Chris Boswell? You would have loved Chris Boswell last week. That was
I did not see Chris Boswell. What did I miss?
So he's a punter, and he tried to fake a kick.
Oh yes.
And and tried to pass and just got absolutely blown up. As Chris Long
never
said,
learned his name, but that guy.
Our buddy Chris Long said this, and it's as succinct as you can put it. If you ever wanted to know what you would look like playing football, it was that Chris Boswell play.
I always love when that happens because you kind of hear them, the internal monologue. This is my moment. You can kind of imagine it, right before.
Yeah, Leroy Jenkins time.
The thing that happens in the NFL is when they go down to a backup quarterback, and you're a fan of a team, you start looking to see, okay, well, who is the backup to the backup?
Right.
Who was a quarterback? Because a lot of NFL players and offensive linemen even were high school quarterbacks because they're the best athletes from wherever they're from, and they usually played multiple positions. And I actually was surprised. I looked it up. Alvin Kamara was not a high school quarterback, so I don't know why he's the backup necessarily on this team. In Seattle at one point, Russell Wilson had to go out during a game. I forget, this was years ago, and it was down to the backup at the time. This might have been Tavares Jackson before he passed away. But the backup was Cam Chancellor, who was a high school quarterback. And that is something I would have loved to see.
But this is why, Kevin, this is why Josh McCown ostensibly will be employed for as long as he wants, right? I remember talking to him about this. He's kind of I love the idea of how the quarterback is basically the president of an NFL team. Right. And so there is always the designated survivor. And sometimes you're like, wait a minute. The Secretary of Agriculture is now the President of the United States? I
have a question for you I've always been dying to ask. When you get your hair cut, do you bring a photo of Josh McCown? I just wondered. Just people want to know.
So, no, I bring an old photo of myself. I'm like Matthew McConaughey. My hero is me 5 months ago when I got my previous haircut. I do want to say, by the way, and I'll get back to the hair thing, obviously, but no, I do want to say, you know who college coaches say would have been an amazing quarterback and was offered as a quarterback in some corners? Odell Beckham. Just pure athlete.
Every pass he's made has been awesome. Yeah. Maybe the Saints should acquire him and make him their new Taysom Hill.
I will say
Odell Beckham Sr., why have you not made that video yet? Just to throw that
the highlights?
A side-by-side of Odell throwing and Baker throwing.
And Baker versus Baker. Yes.
This is a hot take, but Sam Darnold had better 2019 Jets hair than Josh McCown.
Wow.
Wow. I remember the side by side when
Yeah.
they were both adjusting their hair at the same time.
More
Or was
natural
that
for Sam.
No, it was.
No, it was Sam.
Yeah.
It was the student
Okay.
and the master.
Josh McCown is
Wait.
also just really cool, and I think that's literally.
Oh, I love him.
He is.
I love
he
him.
is evidence that in life. I mean, granted, he's very good at his job, and obviously knows a lot about football. But as far as backup quarterbacks go, if you're cool and well liked, that goes a long way towards farthering your
Mina.
career.
We've talked about mixtapes the whole show. Josh McCown has the greatest quarterback mixtape of all time,
Yeah.
and it's just him playing basketball.
Yeah.
Like him throwing down
Impressive.
windmills is
True
an incredible
hooper.
locker room asset, I
True
presume. Yes,
Hooper.
where amazing happens. Alabaster, what's next?
All right, our next quote. We're on a 3-game slide right now in the NBA. If I know one thing about slides here on this team, it could go from 3 to 18 to 19 to 20 really quick. And your choices are A, Buddy Hield, B, Cat, C, Anthony Edwards, or D, Terrence Ross.
Oh man, I want to say Terrence Ross just because I want to troll Kevin Clark and his Orlando Magic, but I fear that it's. I feel like Kevin, if you haven't heard this quote, then it's not Terrence Ross though. That's how this.
Well, no, I mean, last night was NFL. I mean, it wouldn't have been. It seems like a Karl Anthony Towns thing, maybe, right?
I think it's one of the T-Wolves.
Yes, it could be.
It's supposed to be
Edwards is a funny
funnier.
guy. Edwards is a funny guy. I have not.
And
I think it would be funnier if it was Edwards.
Yeah, I agree. Anthony Edwards would have made this self-evidently viral, and instead we're sort of puzzling over it. So I think Karl Anthony Towns is a good answer. Alabaster?
We on a 3-game slide
Yes.
right now in the NBA.
Yes.
If I know one thing about
I would've been
slides,
so
here,
disappointed if it
Minnesota,
was
go
Terrence
from
Ross.
3
I
to
didn't know
18 to
about.
19, 20 real quick. So
Oh,
The
so
good news-
here's a peek behind the curtain. Yeah, we couldn't hear that, so we're just gonna bail out of that video real quick. But it says this quote out loud. Just imagine that part.
They got put in a torture rack by Franz Wagner the other day. Oh, come on.
The fact that there are two Wagners is very, and you didn't pronounce it, Kevin, with that hairstyle as Wagner is a true upset of the day, honestly. But yeah, the Orlando Magic have not won a playoff series since 2010.
Hey,
Sorry to shoehorn in that.
besides the teams that he's played for, the Magic are the only team LeBron has not beaten in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Take that. And when's it going to
What a
happen?
stat.
When's it going to happen? It's never. LeBron will retire having never defeated the Orlando Magic in the playoffs.
Kevin, what's your fondest moment as an Orlando Magic fan while we're here?
Probably the 2009 finals when we beat
Stan
LeBron
Van,
and we
5
went
out.
and we went
Yep.
into the TD Garden to won Game 7 as well. That was a really magical run, and
Man.
we will never be good
Yeah.
again. So it's tough.
Yeah. For me, it was still of course, it was the Dwight Stan Van press conference. But
I was
that not
there.
that
I was
bad.
there as a journalist because the Knicks were in
What?
town. The Knicks were in town, and I was covering it. And all the Knicks writers were there because, as you know, Pablo, the Knicks writers just go to every opposing team availability to ask about the Knicks. They'll just be like,
Correct.
"Hey, Stan, what do you think about the Knicks?" They don't care what's going on with the other team. And so we were all there to just ask about Raymond Felton or something. And then that whole thing happened. And we were like, "Oh wow, this is new."
That's amazing.
Alabaster, I feel like we've exhausted our Timberwolves analysis with that story. So
All
what's
right,
next?
we got some more regular season basketball quotes. It's regular season. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot more boring than the playoffs. You've got to find that motivation to play like the playoffs. And your choices are A, Nikola Jokic, B, Joel Embiid, C, Trae Young, or D, Playoff P.
This feels like Embiid.
Okay,
Jokic-
I want to jump in
Jokic
here.
would not say this.
Well, playoff P, the Clippers are winning. However, this is a very playoff P-esque quote, which is to say it's a bad quote. So I feel like it's Jokic is out. It's B, C, or D. Kevin, wanna?
It feels like Embiid. Also, the Sixers are playing well, and this is the kind of
They
thing
are.
that
Yeah.
you say when you're kind of
So it's
playing well.
But again,
Is it?
I feel like I would have heard this if it was Embiid, and it didn't cross my transom. Although the logic
That's
holds
true.
up. So C or D? Mina, you made a strong argument for D.
But this, to me, sounds like a quote from a player who's losing, which then takes us to Trae Young.
I don't know. I mean, I just kind of feel like this is a weird thing to say if you're losing. Just like I'm bored. I feel like you say that when
Yeah.
you're winning and you're just letting everybody know that it's hard to win. It's a humble brag. This is a humble brag.
But as someone who's been damaged by Trae Young's cockiness, that does also describe Trae Young. So, Alabaster, I'm going to tip the scale.
By the way, I cannot wait for Trae Young Sr. Or is that his dad's name?
Ray Young. Ray Young.
Who's very online to make an OB Senior
Absolutely.
style video of Trae Young not getting foul calls. Just come on, like let's get that video. I want it now.
Yeah. Before Ray Young actually splices video of us into that video, let's choose C and find out the answer.
It's regular season.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot more boring than the playoffs. So it's you gotta find a way to find that motivation to go out and play every night like it's the playoffs.
Trey.
Oh
Trey,
man,
you're
already
like 23. You can't say stuff like this right now.
Yeah, that's the damage aforementioned.
Wow.
I have very problematic allegiances, and all of them were poisoned by Trae Young. Let's just say this also, just on a business side of the game observation. Like, this is where David Stern would call up Trae Young at like 3 a.m. and just like breathily say into the phone, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?"
guys, I'm sorry to interject with this breaking news. Aaron Rodgers has said he consulted with a now good friend of mine, Joe Rogan.
Yes!
No!
Yes!
You said that?
I got a
That's
text
not
about it, and then I had to confirm on the Twitter feed, and it happened, folks.
This is Rogan is it's just so on the nose. Does he know how on the nose this is? Like, that's the thing about being the guy who's the rebel. It's like when everything is so easily scriptable, it feels less rebellious, is the part about being Rogan. Yeah.
I know, like, this is a mostly jokes thing, I realize, and no one here's trying to cancel Aaron Rodgers. We're questioning not only his decision as a public figure to go against a scientific breakthrough that is largely benefiting humanity and is very important to save lives. So that is
Disagree.
Kind of where we're at.
Disagree.
You're part of the culture.
No, Pablo's
casket,
trying to
what do you call
cancel
it?
him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to cancel him, but also I believe the vaccine is injecting microchips into us at the same time.
As a Seahawks fan, I'd like to cancel him for 11 days. Then he's uncanceled. That's where I'm at with Aaron Rodgers.
Alabaster.
All right, guys, it is time to play one more game. And that game is If Then. We'll give you a Mad Lib. You guys fill it out.
Sound effect.
The first one.
Let's go.
If the Lakers are worse than the Thunder when LeBron doesn't play, then blank.
If the Lakers are worse than the Thunder when LeBron doesn't
jeez.
play. You all right, Mina?
You good, buddy?
Lenny just jumped off my lap aggressively.
Off the Lakers bandwagon? Lenny has jumped off the Lakers bandwagon.
Doesn't like the question, I guess.
But along those lines, if the Lakers are worse than the Thunder when LeBron doesn't play, like, then we are getting how many games are we into the season? Like 9?
Yeah.
We have like 70 more games of just layup television debating the Lakers, right? Like, every day is going to be questions about how good is this team really? How good is LeBron James really when he comes back? Like, speaking of scripting things, we know how this is all going to go for the rest of the season if this is how it looks.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw a stat last night that LeBron's only playing about 70% of his games with the Lakers. It was over 90% with the Heat and the Cavs. Yeah. And at some point, they have to have a plan B because this is a new era for LeBron. Lakers LeBron is different, and they better have something better than this if they're going to be without him for 30% of their games. He's going to be out for at least a week. Anthony Davis and Carmelo Anthony basically said we shouldn't be losing these games. We have the pieces to win these games pretty easily. Yeah. Russell Westbrook, by the way, our friend Tom Haberstroh said this, shooting 19% in his career on last-second threes to either tie or go ahead.
Incredible.
Russell, we have some notes. We love you, buddy. Stop taking these threes.
This was a weird one, though, because he actually wasn't that bad in this Thunder game. And neither was Davis. I mean, he wasn't great, but
there were highlights that were humiliating, but by and large, I understand your point. Yes,
I mean, the problem with this team without LeBron is they suck at defense, which is weird because last season when LeBron was out, that was really what sustained them. They were about 500 rendered a disaster. But then watching them
one of the best
get
defensive
ripped
teams
through,
in the league. Yes.
Yeah, watching them get ripped through by the Thunder, who are actively trying to be not good this year, is got to be so disheartening as a Lakers fan. Given that, Kevin, you're right. Like LeBron is going to load manage all season. I understand, but it's not sustainable if they play this way.
But the other part about why this is just so delicious for people who love to make content about why the Lakers are struggling is because even if Russell Westbrook was awesome while LeBron James is out, which he was for that like first game, I forget, against the Hornets, I think, when they played. The point is, even if Russell Westbrook is awesome, like that does not actually do anything to solve their actual problem, which is that how do you win a title with LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis on the floor together? Like that is still always going to be the thing that undoes this dynamic. Like it's not a big three. That's the take, actually. Forget my other thing, fill in the blank, then the Lakers do not have a big three. That's where we are. And I actually believe that take, as much as I also am very on the nose by criticizing Russell Westbrook.
They didn't have
that way.
a big three in the bubble, right? So I think the question is just kind of, can you come out of the West without a big three right now? And you've got the Warriors who are going to get Clay back at some point. The Clippers are shooting like 80% or something crazy. Like, I don't know. It's also November, so we probably won't know for a while.
Hold on, Pablo.
What?
Will you say on the record right now then, if the Lakers don't have a big three because of Westbrook, then it is important for your secondary stars to be able to shoot, to be a big three?
Oh, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. I see what you're doing. You think you're playing chess?
Can you put up a picture of the person that you're subtweeting verbally?
Could be anybody.
50 cards.
Philosophical
like
question.
50,
no, I know
50,
you have this photo lying
50
around
of the
at all
same
times.
cards. We just
Wait,
rotate.
Hey.
Yeah,
there it is.
Great. Very
there
good.
it is. Hey.
Yep. Yeah, if only Russell Westbrook also was maybe the best defender in the NBA and also created more three-point shots for his teammates like Ben Simmons and also happened to be, I don't know, as fast as anybody who's ever lived who's 7 feet tall. Yes, if all those things are also true, you can make, okay, there it is. Great. Very
Yeah, there we go.
Very
There
good.
we go. Dark.
Are we done? Are we done with the show? Is there more show
We
left?
actually have one more. The 76ers began finding Ben Simmons again, which begs the question. If the 76ers are the best team in the East without Ben Simmons, then blank.
Then Kevin Durant quit basketball, I feel like is the answer to this. I mean, or Giannis, I guess. We're really coming full circle here, right? With the Browns and Odell. Kevin, wouldn't you say like this lines up pretty neatly in terms of who's to blame and control tests? Because right now this is very much in favor of the Sixers sans Ben Simmons.
Seth Curry making shots. People making shots just in general. Turns out it helps. Just a
Yeah,
thought.
that's the reality.
Also
of
getting
this,
shots.
Joel
Taking
Embiid isn't even playing well though. Tobias Harris is struggling. This is where I do have to say the thing where like it's November and nothing we say will be actually remembered in 1 week, let alone 6 months from now.
Shout out Daryl Morey.
Great topic, Alabaster. Yeah. Shout out to Daryl. There's no one for whom I have more love and also more hate at the same time in this business than Daryl Morey.
I can't even tell whose side you're on anymore when it comes to
I
Sixers.
don't know
You're working
either.
so many angles.
I don't know either. We're gonna go watch the Nets play the Warriors in a couple of weeks. I still want to be friends with the Bing Bong kid before he turns out to be milkshake ducked. I have a lot of problematic relationships. Kevin Clark, just the latest one on the show, thankfully.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh. Alabaster, do you have the confetti still? Do you the confetti or no? No confetti?
Yeah.
There you
There it
go.
is. Confetti for Kevin Clark. Yeah, just sad cup of confetti. Yeah.
I gotta go read these Rodgers quotes.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna.